You know, if Sonia and Capucine can't come, can Sonia or if she
I think Sonia will join actually.
okay. Hi darling, how are you?
Good, and you?
Yeah, I'm just packing about I'm gonna leave on Wednesday to go to Australia, so I'm really excited. But
Oh,
kind of
okay.
when you're like got loads of things, my room's like a bit of a tip because I'm packing all my things.
Okay.
My friends
Nice.
are so yeah, I fell in love with Australian man, so I'm going back to Australia.
Okay. When you were in Australia the last time, you fell in love, or
Yeah, I met him
okay.
like I literally was in the sauna and I was reading a book, funny enough, called The Mastery of Love. And I had been single and celibate for quite a few months because I broke up with Matthew. We were together 3 months and I went through a big grief portal. And I think we were working together at that point, yeah. And then I was in the sauna reading this book called Mastery of Love, and Joel, the guy, was like, "Oh, what are you reading?" Like curious, and I was just chatting with him. We were doing this sauna and this going in the ocean swimming, and then he's like, "Oh, I'd love to get your number," and I was like, "Well, I'm actually leaving tomorrow. I had a flight booked in the morning, which I missed." I missed it. I stayed at his house that night and I said to him, I'm celibate, but he's like, I'd love to take you out for like apple crumble. So after I had
Yeah.
dinner, took me out for apple crumble and then he's like, do you want to come back to my house for tea? I was like, yeah. I was like, but I'm celibate, like don't get any ideas or anything like that. And I thought my flight was 7 p.m. in the evening, but it was in the morning. And I ended up staying at his house and like cuddling and just, kissing all all night. And then I missed my flight. And then I had to fly a week later, but that week I stayed at his house the whole week, so we got to connect. And then he just came to Bali. Katrin was in Bali on the Head to Heart retreat. Sereina wanted to come, but she unfortunately couldn't. So he came after the retreat. So yeah,
Okay.
I'll send you a photo of him. He's very cute.
So beautiful.
Hey,
So
how did
happy for
you
you.
pass your exam, Ben? Or
Yeah, I passed everything. Yes.
oh, so proud of you
Yeah.
guys.
What exam
Yeah.
did you take? Medicine.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
Good.
That's a big
Yeah.
one. Yeah. Yeah, I was very scared of that last exam. I think I talked with you about it prior, but I'm not sure. Which was yeah, it was such a stressful exam. We had to do a lot of different things and do like we had simulating patients and we had to diagnose them and um, tell them what therapy we would give them, and it was so stressful. And I was actually so good at this exam, which I was most stressful about. It was my best exam.
Really?
Oh,
Oh.
so funny.
She
Yeah.
starts working as a doctor like in a few weeks, or are you already working?
Yeah. No, in January, the 2nd of January, I think I will start.
Serena's coming on my women's circle facilitation training, and I had to push it back, but I think January will be good because it's the new year, and yeah, I think after the retreat, a lot of people that wanted to join, it was quite a lot to do before Christmas, and a lot of the girls also in their head to heart journey were like, I think a little bit processed out because it was such a big. I think that's why everyone's like, yeah, it's good for me to learn about this because like next year when I run Head to Heart, I think I will finish Head to Heart before the retreat begins, and then the retreat's just like a fun last experience. But I feel like after the retreat, everyone's kind of like off traveling, doing the thing. So we may just start going. I think we should just start, and then anyone who like we're gonna have this on a
Okay.
replay, and this might be used for other Head to Heart. So if you don't, do you mind being in it, Catherine? Or
No, not at all.
I will put her as like the main photo, so you'll be like the main kind of woman. Um, I'd love, I'd love to introduce you. So Sereina and I worked together briefly a couple of months ago. She did the somatic healing program. So it was like 4 sessions, and yeah, she had a really beautiful journey and transformation. So I'd love for you to maybe share a little bit about what led you to this work you're doing now, and then maybe a little bit about our work together and what you received out of it, and then go straight into your amazing workshop that you're going to give us. So grateful. Drum roll.
Thank you. So I can also start sharing my screen because I would have a little introduction about myself on my slides. Can I? Oh, I cannot share my screen yet. I think you have to allow me to.
Yes, your co-host now, my love. I'm recording this too,
Okay.
so I will send you the recording, and if you want to use it for
Yeah.
anything.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Perfect. So yeah, I will give a little 1 hour workshop today about how we as women can connect to our menstrual cycles again and how we can balance our hormones. And I'm Sereina, and I am from Switzerland, as you can maybe hear from my accent, my German accent. And
Where where are you from, Sereina?
Lucerne.
Ah, so funny. I'm in Bern.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I didn't hear your accent before. Like, yeah,
I'm
but
Austrian, that's why.
yeah,
Go ahead.
nice to meet you. Yeah, Switzerland is a small country, but I think we always happen to reconnect on all sides of the planet, so that's so funny. Um, and yeah, I'm a medical doctor. I just finished my studies, like I said, in September and will start working in January. I want to become a children's doctor, actually, not a gynecologist. But yeah, why I teach today about hormones and the menstrual cycle is because I suffered myself from a lot of issues like irregular cycles and also absent periods for a long time. I also had severe menstrual cramps and got diagnosed with endometriosis from my gynecologist. And there are also recurring vaginal infections with a lot of yeast infections. And at some point, I just was very unhappy with the solutions that were given to me by the gynecologist. So, yeah, they told me that there's no healing to endometriosis. Endometriosis is a disease where, yeah, there's a lot of inflammation inside of the yoni and a lot of pain during menstruation and can also lead to infertility. And yeah, this medical solution is just that you take hormonal birth control and then the symptoms are a bit suppressed, but nothing is healed. And yeah, I was very unhappy with that. And I just trusted my body very much that it could actually heal my disease. So yeah, I started to go on my own healing journey and stopped all of the hormonal birth control and yeah, just supported my body in an optimal way that it can be healing itself. And at that time, I also did an online training called Balance Your Cycle with Pauline, which you may know from Briar. I don't know, just a friend of Briar. And yeah, and then things really started to shift for me. So I now have a very regular cycle without any cramps, and I healed myself from my endometriosis. And yeah, it
Can I
was
ask a
such a,
question?
yeah, sure.
If someone comes to you with this, would you give them more natural therapies versus the things that you were given by doctors?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Are
Yeah,
you allowed
because
to
I
do that
really,
though?
sorry,
Are you allowed to do that?
as a doctor, you mean?
Yeah, like give natural therapies.
Yeah, sure. You are actually you would be allowed to do everything as a doctor, but yeah, it's a bit difficult because I'm not allowed to work as a gynecologist because I'm not specialized on that. But
Mm,
actually, receipts I can give to everyone or also um,
mm.
do therapies, but yeah, not work really as a gynecologist and tell them what to do. So yeah. But I think the problem is just that it's very unknown. The gynecologists don't really know about the natural therapies. They just know their hormonal birth control and they don't really have any other things that they know what we can also do about it.
Why do you
Yeah.
think that is?
I think, well, I also experienced it myself that doctors are really not bad persons. So I think everyone who becomes a doctor really wants to help actually. But the problem is just, yeah, our whole education and the medical system, you get so brainwashed and it's just, yeah, there are no other solutions. I mean, I didn't learn about anything else in my medical studies apart from hormonal birth control as a solution.
Nutrition?
And so, sorry?
Nutrition. Did you learn nutrition?
No, not really, no. I think
And
we
you're a
had in my
doctor.
whole
Wow.
6 year study, I think we had 3 lessons about
Three
nutrition.
lessons. Wow. And I just want to hone in on this for everyone listening because, you know, my mum has been doing natural medicine for a long time, and she's not a doctor. She's her own medicine woman, like we all are, you know. And she knows this, and I was just interested because, you know, the pharmaceutical company is like profiting off people being sick, right? And I know this might be a conflict of interest, but a lot of doctors are basically trained to prescribe um, medicine, which for sure can help some symptoms, but then they create a domino of symptoms because of people being on medication and not looking at the root cause. Would you agree on this?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not totally against the medicine world because I think for acute things, it's sometimes really helpful and it can save lives. And
Mm. Definitely, yeah.
so it's really necessary, but I think the medicine system is very bad with chronic issues. So yeah, they just have their medication. I think a lot of times it just makes it worse and worse because yeah, like you said, it's also poison for our bodies. And if we take this medication for over a long time, it just causes a lot of more problems inside of our bodies.
Have you
And
ever
yeah, I
spoken
think it's
about
really
this in your
just
studies? Did you ever question this in your studies? 'Cause I know Pauline did, or like, did you
yeah, yeah, I did
anyone ever
too.
question this?
Yeah, I did question it a lot. And yeah, I think because I grew up with a lot of natural medicine, also homeopathy.
Mm.
And so I think I was already in that mindset before I started my studies that there are other solutions to it and also experienced it myself.
Mm.
Um, and in my family. And so I was, yeah, very critical from the start. But yeah, somehow, and I also, like Pauline, thought about it a lot. I thought about quitting a lot,
Yeah.
but somehow it just always felt right to continue. And although a lot of things are fucked up, but still it felt really right to do it. And I don't know why. But yeah, maybe I'm meant to include everything at the end. Like,
You
yeah.
are, babe. This is and you know, the reason why I'm questioning a little bit, because when I put this maybe as a podcast or on Instagram, I want to sh help people, educate people that for sure your intentions, doctors' intentions are pure, but unfortunately it's other people's intentions that are, you know, not so pure. So yeah, we really appreciate you coming in with the science background, with all the knowledge, with all the training that you've done, but then bringing this medicine, this new age medicine, this holistic medicine to the world. So I just want to honor you and um yeah, sorry for questioning a little bit, but I just wanted to get more out of it. So for people
Sure, yeah.
listening, they that may think that, you know, like pharmaceutical companies are good. Like maybe they can, you know, like you said, it can be very serving in sometimes, but then also a lot of the times we need other methodologies like Pauline's program, like you're balancing hormones, like the head to the heart to release all these emotions that create a lot of sickness and stress and diet. You know, it's crazy that you only learn such a short, tiny bit of diet, unfortunately. But maybe
Yeah.
your generation is the one that's going to shift things. I do believe. Hello, Sonia. Welcome, my love.
Hello.
Yeah,
And I
so
think
Yeah.
it's
sorry.
also
This
easier to
Monday
shift the
had to
system from within,
Mm.
like for you, Serena.
Sorry?
Because as a medical doc, it's easier to
Oh,
shift the system from within the
yeah,
system rather than from
Yeah.
that's
uh,
true. Yeah.
outside of the system.
Yeah.
Um, because as a medical doctor, you're just allowed to do so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
also, like maybe but that's like a Western way of thinking. Like people tend to treat doctors, especially elder generations, like they're one source of knowledge, you know, almost like they're gods and they know everything.
Mm.
Yeah, that used to be like that, and now it's actually shifting a lot so that we are questioned a lot. So what happens now a lot with our new gen generation is that they come and are like, and we say, oh, it's no, I think it's this, and they say, oh no, I don't think so. I Googled it myself, and so that starts shifting, and that's also a good thing, I think. That's yeah, doctors are not the gods anymore, and you have to believe them everything and do what they say, because I mean everybody knows its body in the best way. So I think that's a good shift. Um, but yeah, I think the elder generation is still in that mindset with
Mm.
doctors being the highest persons, and yeah, that's not
And
healthy.
sorry to interrupt you. I do want to let you flow now. I know I've had a couple of questions. Maybe if there's any questions, we can wait to the end because it will be better with the flow, just letting her speak. And I know that was mainly my fault interrupting. But if there's anything really like, oh my God, I need to ask her, maybe type it in the chat box and she'll come to it. And if not at the end, just so she can have the free flow of even though I love the interaction. Is that good for you? Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, yeah, no worries. I also love
Or for me,
interaction.
because I
So.
have so many questions. Okay,
No,
I'll let
no,
you.
I'm really I love asking questions. That's my favorite part. So it was a good start. But yeah, maybe I will just go through it that I can also share a little bit about it. And then
Yeah,
you can I'm really
yeah,
happy to ask your questions if you have any.
yeah. No, no, I'll let you go, and I'd love to, and also I'd love to hear about your journey with what like the journey that we went on as well. If you feel like sharing a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, with all of that, with my healing journey, other women start asking me, "Wow, how did you do that? Also wanna become rid of my symptoms." And yeah, it's just really hard to explain it in like a few minutes. So because um, deep healing is just always so holistically. And so I decided to do my own online training. It's called Cyclic Flow, and it started this September. And yeah, I just teach women how they can connect to their cycles and with that come into balance again. And yeah, before I released my program, I did the coaching with Briar because I was just so scared. A lot of fears came up of being seen and of promoting myself and of charging enough. And yeah, then I did the coaching with Briar, and it was just so helpful to really step into my energy and also, yeah, to become a space holder. And yeah, it was such a beautiful coaching. Thank you so much, Briar. And also helped me a lot with making my first program very successful. So yeah.
Can you share a little bit about that
You
if
okay?
you want to? Because I think it will help because they're at the end.
Yeah, so
They're going to be promoting their program soon, so it'll give them that confidence in themselves too.
oh cool. Yeah. Yeah, you mean about the success or about my journey, how
Yeah,
I
all of it. I mean,
come
like how you were going to charge,
okay.
like you were going to charge like $30 for one session, just to kind of get an understanding of where you were at before coming to.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was at the start I was really scared about charging. I thought like, okay, I don't really know if I can help them. I mean, I haven't done it before and I don't want to charge too much and then their expectations are really high. So I think I started with just so it's a 3 month program and I think I wanted to charge $20 or euros per session and just yeah that they can come and go whenever they want and then they don't have to do the whole program. And so Brian really said that this is not a good way of approaching it because you need to have committed women who want to do the whole program and also yeah like more setting a price that's for the whole program and not for every session. And yeah, so I think I promoted it afterwards, the whole program for 300 euros, which is still not a lot because I mean, yeah, it's my first program, but still it was a lot more. And yeah, I also did a free masterclass of just the introduction and of a bit promoting my program. And then a lot of women signed up for the
Uh,
300 euros,
She had
13
13
women, I think.
women. So you made like
Yeah.
$3,000, right? That's like
Yeah.
more than I made in my first program. So I'm celebrating like six
Yeah.
times your investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really incredible. I didn't expect that. And
So she
yeah,
can
it
do
would
it.
definitely
So
not
can
have
you
been
girls.
with,
There's no
sorry?
I sorry, I just had to pop it. I said if she can do it, so can you guys, because you've had 6 months of
Of
learning.
course. I was so scared. Yeah, yeah.
She had four
No, of course.
sessions, so you
No.
have 6 months. No
Only
excuses.
4 sessions, yeah. Yeah, and I think it's really, really helpful to have someone at your side when you're first doing that because, yeah, it is very scary and a lot of fears came up. And I think, yeah, it's so beautiful to have someone on your side like Prior to really push you through it and cheer you up and, yeah, help you overcome those fears. Because, yeah, there's such a gift in overcoming these fears and actually do it. And it feels so good now to have done it. Yeah,
And how old are
really
you,
don't regret
Sereina?
anything.
How old are you, Sereina?
26 now. Just turned 26 this month.
New generation. Love it. The fresh
Yeah,
energy.
so thank you. So shall I go into the workshop?
Please. Yeah, I'll shut up now.
Okay. So yeah, today I wanna, in about 45 minutes, let's see how much time we have left. I want to give you a little introduction about the menstrual cycle and our reproductive hormones, and then also the phases of our cycle. There are actually 4 phases, and how we can live with them again. Then also a bit about hormonal imbalances. What are signs of hormonal imbalances, and what are the causes of them? And then at the end, of course, how you can start balancing your hormones naturally and really come into a beautiful cycle again. So, first of all, we as women are cyclical beings, and it is a very huge part of us to be a cyclical being. And yeah, it's a big part of how we are designed as women to be, and is also where we are different from men. So men only have their 24-hour cycle, and we as women, additionally to that 24-hour cycle, also have our monthly cycle, which is about 28 days and is exactly the same length as the moon cycle is. So this is why there's a picture of the moon here. And we are usually also very connected to that moon cycle as women and are very sensitive to it. And yeah, it's also, if you are not bleeding at the moment, we still have this energetic cycle in ourselves of a month. And yeah, so if you're not bleeding, you can also connect to the moon cycle and just live with the moon cycle like it is your menstrual cycle. And yeah, it's just such a big part of us to be this cyclical being, and it's actually also said that it is one reason why women are dying older than men, because we have our menstrual cycle. And yeah, it's such a big gift that we have this. We have a chance of starting new every month. We bleed every month and can let go of old things that don't serve us anymore and then start from anew. And this is a very healthy process and is, yeah, oh, actually one reason why we live longer as women. So my goal today is really to show you what a gift the menstrual cycle actually is for us women. And yeah, that you really can learn, if you're not doing it already, to connect to your cycle and yeah, just honor yourself as a cyclical being. So I will start with a few facts about the menstrual cycle. In the medicine world, they say it's normal to be between 23 and 35 days, but it's really not an optimal range. So optimal would be between 28 and 32 days. So if you're not in that optimal range at the moment, you can maybe look at if there could be some imbalances at the moment. And yeah, the menstrual cycle is controlled by a really complex interactions of different hormones, which I will explain a bit later. The average blood loss is 60 milliliters, which is 1.5 shot glasses of these, which is quite a lot actually. And also the uterus doubles in size before the periods. So yeah, our organ inside of our belly, if you imagine that, is double the size before our period and shrinks again after the period, and not to mention the size that it can change when we get pregnant. So then I don't know, it's maybe 10 the size of before. And Also, our menstrual cycle is really a sacred mirror of our health. So we can only have a regular and cycle and without any symptoms if we are in optimal health. And I think that's also really a thing that every doctor should ask a woman how her menstrual cycle is, because it just shows us so much about our health, if we are in balance or not. And yeah, a little bit about the anatomy, that we are all on the same level. So the yoni, when I talk about the yoni, it's just meant everything. So also the vulva that is not showed here. And then we have the vagina and the uterus. So all of that, I think you can see my cursor, right? Okay. So all of that belongs to the uterus. The lower part is the cervix, which is the entrance from the vagina into the uterus. And then the uterus body itself has a lot of different layers. So we have a lot of muscles. So all of these are muscles inside of the uterus wall. And then on the inside, there's the endometrium, which is the inner layer. Here I think it's at a bleeding state, so it's coming out. And yeah, the endometrium is the layer which is built up during our first phase of the cycle and then is completely repelled during our menstruation. And then we have the fallopian tubes on both sides, which are connecting the uterus to the ovaries. And the ovaries, of course, which produce hormones and are also store the egg cells in it. And each month, one egg cell is popping out of the ovaries and is traveling along the fallopian tube into the uterus and can be fertilized during that time. Yeah, and just to motivate you a little bit from the beginning. So the benefits, if we start living with our cycles again, is that we have in general such really more energy, because we know when to rest and when to activate ourselves. We have so much more energy in general, and it just makes so much more sense for us women to live like that. We can also get rid of pain and other issues associated to our cycles, like I experienced it. We can actually be physically stronger when we honor the phases where we rather rest and the phases where we can activate ourselves, and also mentally and in total stronger. We can also balance mood swings when we live with our cycles, and of course improve our overall health, because our cycle is a mirror and our fertility is a mirror of our health. We can only be at optimal fertility when we are at optimal health. And also improve our digestion, because our digestion is also very linked to hormones, and just be much more connected to that feminine energy, because like I said, it's a very big part of us women to be a cyclical being. And yeah, just makes so much more sense for us women when we start living with that monthly cycle again. So yeah, I will talk a bit about the reproductive hormones that we have and which influence our menstrual cycles. So the hormonal system in our body is a very complex system. And I will not explain everything, but it's a very we have a lot of hormonal glands inside of our bodies, and it's such an intelligent system, and everything is connected inside of our bodies. And those hormonal glands communicate with each other. And for the reproductive hormones, we have actually three main hormones. So it's the estrogen, the progesterone, and the testosterone that are important for our menstrual cycle to happen. And the estrogen and the progesterone are produced in our ovaries. And the testosterone for men, it is produced in the testes, but for us women, it is produced in the adrenals, which are on top of both kidneys on both sides. And the adrenals actually also produce our stress hormones. And our hormonal system is also depending a lot of our stress hormones. So if we release stress hormones or a lot of stress hormones, our reproductive hormones are actually suppressed. So if we are in a state of stress, our hormonal system cannot work properly, and we are not at optimal fertility. And then we have in the brain the two hormones FSH and LH, the follicular stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone, which are just regulator hormones of our reproductive hormones. So the brain is actually the boss of the hormonal system and just tells the other hormonal glands how much of their hormones they should build. And so yeah, FSH and LH are the boss hormones of those three hormones. And they are actually also suppressed when we take hormonal birth control. So if we take hormonal birth control, we don't produce any of these FSH and LH, and just the whole system is, yeah, suppressed. And the estrogen and progesterone, which are our two main reproductive hormones, are at different levels during our menstrual cycle. And they just have an effect on every organ system of our body. So they affect the brain, the heart, our digestive system, of course, the uterus. And so, yeah, because they are at different levels during our menstrual cycle, our whole body works differently during our menstrual phases. So, yeah, it really has a big impact on our whole body. And it's really important to know that and also to adapt our lives to it. So, estrogen is a very beautiful and important hormone for us women. It's a growth hormone, actually, so it increases bone density, makes our bones grow, also our muscles, and it also actually fastens muscle recovery. So when estrogen is high, it's actually high during the first phase of our cycle. We can also build up muscles and bones strength so much better. It's also the yin hormone. So I think you're a bit aware of yin and yang, the two energies. And estrogen is rather the yin hormone, so connected to that female energy. And yeah, it also makes our brain more effective, actually, and our verbal skills are better when estrogen is high during our first phase of the cycle. And also, it has effects on our looks and makes our face, for example, more symmetric and our boobs perkier. And yeah, so estrogen just has the goal, the natural goal to make us the most attractive on the inside and outside for a potential partner. Because, yeah, in the first phase, we are at our fertile window and we want to reproduce. And so, yeah, it makes us attractive on the in and outside. It makes us feel good. Yeah. And then we have progesterone, which is the dominant hormone in the second phase of the cycle, and is also a very important hormone for us, and is rather a bit contrary to estrogen. So it's the young hormone and is more connected to that male energy. And the name comes from progestation, which means in Latin pro-pregnancy. So it's a very important hormone for being pregnant. We can only be and stay pregnant when we have enough progesterone. And it's also because of that our body thinks that we are pregnant during the second phase of our cycle. So after ovulation, when progesterone is produced, our body thinks that we are pregnant, and it cannot make the difference yet if we are fertilized or not. So it just assumes that we are pregnant. And progesterone is really a sedative hormone. It calms us. It also makes us more introvert, and we need more safety and support when progesterone is high, which also makes a lot of sense in nature, because when we think we are pregnant, we want to protect ourselves and don't take risks anymore. And it also makes us less resistant to stress. And then testosterone, which is the male reproductive hormone, but it's also very important for us women. We also have actually high concentration of testosterone, and also yeah, it's very beneficial for the female body. And testosterone for us is peaking during ovulation. It makes also sense because it wants us to take a risk, which is being fertilized. And yeah, it also just also boosts our strength, our physical strength, and makes our confidence bigger. So yeah. And with these hormonal changes, the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle are being built. And I will explain you now which are these 4 phases. So we always start a new cycle with menstruation. So the day 1 of our bleed is the first day of our new cycle. And this is here a 28-day cycle, but it can really vary between woman to woman. So the days can be different. But yeah, it's more or less between day 1 and 5. And we can compare the 4 phases of the cycle very well to the seasons to really get an image of how our body works during that phases and yeah, how our inner feelings are during that phase. So the menstruation would be the inner winter. And then next comes the follicular phase when the bleeding stops. We come into our inner spring, and this it lasts from about day 5 to 13. And in the middle of the cycle, yeah, here on day 14, we come into ovulation, where the egg cell gets released out of the ovary into the fallopian tube, and we are at our fertile window, and this is our inner summer. And after ovulation happens, we come into our last phase, which is the luteal phase and our inner autumn. And this is from about day 15 to 28, yeah, until our bleeding starts again. And I will talk a little bit more about these phases later, but this is just to give you a summary of it. And this is actually in German, but I will just translate it. So I draw this myself for my program. So what happens inside of our bodies during our menstruation, so what happens in the endometrium and into the ovary and with our hormones is just really well summarized here. So this is also a 28-day cycle. And what happens in our endometrium, so this the inner layer of our uterus, is that it gets completely repelled during menstruation. And after our bleed, it gets built up again and grows and reaches its maximum height at day 14, so at when ovulation happens. And after that, it just matures and yeah, builds that beautiful layer that is perfect for for a baby to nest itself in. And after luteal phase, when we are not fertilized, it just gets repelled again during menstruation. And then what happens in our ovaries is that already when menstruation starts, so at day 1, there's a new follicle with an egg cell that starts growing. And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger during our follicular phase. And during our ovulation, the follicle bursts and the egg gets out of the follicle into the fallopian tube, and we are at our fertile window. And what happens to the follicle when the egg is being released is that it turns itself into a hormonal gland. And this is called the corpus luteum on Latin, or yellow body translated. And it's where progesterone is produced. So this is also why we can only build progesterone when we ovulate. And for example, when we take hormonal birth control, we don't ovulate and we are not building progesterone. Yeah, then it just stays there till the end of luteal phase and produces progesterone. And in case we are pregnant, it stays there for the whole pregnancy and produces progesterone. And so the hormones in the ovaries are the estrogen and the progesterone that are being built. And like I said, the estrogen is the dominant hormone of the first phase of our cycle. So both hormones are at the lowest during our menstruation. And then after the bleeds, estrogen starts rising again and is high during our follicular phase and is peaking during ovulation. And then after ovulation, it lowers again and then has a second smaller peak during luteal phase and is lower again when it comes to menstruation. And progesterone is actually low during the whole first phase of our cycle because we don't have the yellow body yet that produces it. And then after ovulation, we produce this progesterone, and it's higher and higher during our luteal phase, and is here the dominant hormone of the second phase of the cycle, so the luteal phase, and starts lowering again. When we are not fertilized during menstruation. And these are just the two hormones in the brain, the FSH and the LH, which are very important to make ovulation happen. So they are both peaking during ovulation to make it happen. Yeah, now we'll come to the hormonal imbalances and how you can maybe know that you could have a hormonal imbalance and also what the causes are of it. So there are a lot of signs that can be a sign of hormonal imbalances, more than I read here actually. But usually it's just all the problems linked to the menstrual cycle. So if you're suffering from PMS symptoms, which are symptoms that are right before your period, so headaches or menstrual cramps or mood swings, and also the pain during our menstruation. Digestive issues can be due to hormonal imbalances, such as mood swings and also depression, fatigue, breast tenderness, water retention. Also, acne can be hormonal, and headaches in general. And then, of course, also the diseases like endometriosis and PCOS, which are the two most common diseases linked to our yoni. And it's just really important to know that none of these symptoms are normal, because we often get told as women that it's just normal to suffer from pain and mood swings and whatever, but none of it is normal, and it's always a sign of our body that something is not in balance, that we have hormonal imbalance. And it's a way of the body to speak to us and to show us that we are not in balance. So what are the causes of hormonal imbalances? It's actually always stress. It's just because when we are in stress, we cannot be in total balance. And when our body is in stress, it just shuts down our hormonal cycle, because our reproductive cycle is not necessary for surviving, or just necessary for our body to work. So it just shuts this one down if there's a stressor. And so it's really important to be at optimal health and don't have any stressors to make the reproductive system work at a perfect level. So there can be a lot of different stressors, and usually it's really necessary to look at all of those different stressors to bring ourselves in balance again. So one of the stressors is dietary stress. And that can be, for example, when we eat too little. This is a big stressor for our body, and is actually also very common in young women, that they want to lose weight and then eat too little, and then their cycle disappears. And also if we eat not enough nutrients, if we don't eat nutrient-dense food, or have certain diets and don't really care about taking enough nutrients. And also if we eat the wrong food, so if we eat a lot of processed foods or a lot of sugar or a lot of caffeine, that's also a stressor for our body. And then we have, of course, the mental stress, which is a big one for a lot of us, for example, at work. And it's also a lot of time causes for hormonal imbalances. And then also the emotional stress. So if we tend to hold on to our emotions and don't release them, they can be stuck in our bodies. Or also if we suppress them and don't feel them, they can be stuck in our bodies, and especially in our yoni. Our yoni saves a lot of our emotions. So it's really important that we get into flow with that and release our emotions. I think that's something you do with prayer. And then also physical stress. So on the one hand, if you don't move your body at all, if you move too little, it can be a stress for the body, because it's so healthy for our body to move a lot and yeah, makes everything flow into the inside of the body. But also if we overexercise, that's also a big stressor for our body, and is also a big reason why our cycle can disappear, for example, when we when we have too much physical stress and overexercise, and our hormonal cycle is just so much more sensitive than the ones of men. And a lot of trainings nowadays are designed for the male body, and so we really have to be careful that we don't exercise the same as men, because that can be such a big stressor for our hormonal system. And then last one is the environment. So there are a lot of stressors in the environment, which can also lead to hormonal imbalances. And they're actually also increasing, sadly. So yeah, our environment gets more and more toxic. And we have to be careful that we just, yeah, don't expose ourselves to these toxins. But I will talk a little bit later about what these can be. And so, yeah, we will come to the good part now. So what we can do to balance our hormones again, and to not have the symptoms again, and to really be connected to our cycle. So first of all, what we can do is, of course, reducing those 5 stressors that I just told you about. When we really can bring these 5 into balance, we usually can get rid of all of those symptoms. So I will just give you a little summary about these 4 topics. I can't go into detail what I do in my program, but I will just give you a little overview. So yeah, dietary, it's just very important that we, of course, like I said, eat enough, that we nourish our body enough, and that we also give it enough nutrients. So if we eat a lot of food that is not dense in nutrients, it's also our body is deficient of these nutrients, and that's a stressor. So it's important to eat enough nutrients, and that comes from fresh foods and not processed foods. And maybe, yeah, some nutrients, it also makes sense to take in supplements, because yeah, our food are just not as nutrient dense as they used to be. And it's also important to eat organic food, because we don't want to expose ourselves to the pesticides that can be hormonal disruptors. And for us women, it's also very important to eat healthy fats and proteins, and enough of these, because we need those healthy fats and proteins to build our hormones and to build the new follicle and our endometrial lining. So we are just producing a lot every month. So we need a lot of these healthy fats and proteins. And what can also be very helpful is to eat probiotic and prebiotic foods. Maybe you've heard of that before. If not, you can maybe Google it later. And they are just very beneficial for our microbiome, which is in our gut. And there are a lot of different bacteria and viruses and fungus inside of our gut, which are very important for our general health, but also for our hormonal health. So if we have a good microbiome, our hormones can be in balance. So yeah, we can really nourish this microbiome with the probiotic and prebiotic foods. And what we should avoid is processed foods, like I said, and because they have not much nutrients and have a lot of chemicals inside. And then also sugar is not good for our general health. It can cause inflammation inside of our bodies. Then also caffeine, because caffeine is also releasing stress inside of our bodies. And yeah, stress is not good for our hormones. And also alcohol just is not good if we consume that in high concentrations, because it stresses our bodies, because it is a toxin, and also stresses our liver, which is also very important for our hormonal health. And then from the physical side, it's firstly important to move our body to get everything in flow, because if we move our body, the blood flow in our bodies increase, and we can detox a lot more, and just everything is in flow. But it's very important to listen to your body and to don't overexercise or push yourself into something that your body doesn't want. And here it's also especially very important that we move with our cycle so that we don't do the same exercises every month, every day of the month, not like men. And yeah, it's really important during menstruation that we rest, that we don't exercise because our hormones are at the lowest and our energy is very low and we don't want to stress our body in that phase. And then when you come into follicular phase and ovulation, when your estrogen is high, you have a lot of more energy and you can build up muscles and bone density. So during that time, it's very good to do exercises and you can also push yourself a little in that phase. And then when we come into luteal phase, so after ovulation and our body thinks we are pregnant, it's again not good to stress our body. So we want to do gentle workouts and yeah, just don't put additional stress with physical activity during that phase. And then from the emotional, mental side, of course, like I said, it's not good to hold on to or suppress emotions so that the emotions can flow and that they're not getting stuck somewhere. And also to do exercises like embodiment to release stuck emotions inside of our bodies and inside of our yoni. Also, hip movements are really supportive to release stored emotions inside of our hips and our yoni. And then, of course, also stress management to reduce the mental stress. And for that, it's also very helpful to look at your breath, that you're consciously breathing and during your stress into the daily activities that you can just get back to your breath and get back to a more relaxed state. And then the environment, yeah, there are sadly a lot of toxins inside of our environment, which can also lead to hormonal imbalances. So what you can do there is that you can reduce plastics. So don't use any plastic bottles or plastic Tupperware. And yeah, especially don't look that your food doesn't come into contact with plastics because plastics can firstly increase inflammation inside of our bodies, but also disrupt directly the hormonal cycle. And then, like I said, also organic foods because pesticides can also directly destroy our hormones. So whenever you can buy organic, also avoid aluminium, so aluminium doses or yeah, anything with aluminium that comes into contact with our food can also increase our inflammation inside of our body and be a stressor. And cosmetics are actually also a big source of hormonal disruptors. So they also contain artificial estrogens, which disrupt our cycle. So cosmetics, yeah, it's really good to be careful there and to only choose natural cosmetics. And also, it's very beneficial for our hormonal cycle to regulate our biorhythm. So, and for this, it's very good to catch as much natural light as you can and also catch sunlight. Of course, watch out that you're not exposing yourself to too much sunlight. But yeah, natural sunlight is just so beneficial for our health in total and for our biorhythm. And we want to reduce the artificial light sources, for especially in the night or in the evening when it gets dark outside and our body wants to calm down and wants to produce the melatonin, which is produced when it gets dark and makes us tired. It's good to reduce the artificial light sources and also the blue light from our screens to just get us into the biorhythm. Yeah. So these are the stressors. And then the next thing which we can do is really live with our cycles again. So live with each of our phase of the cycle. That brings us so much more into that hormonal balance and yeah, also that state of a cyclical being. Yeah, I don't know how much time do I have left, Briar? Or I think I would have like 10 more minutes or 5 to 10 more minutes. So
Do you guys have extra time? Normally we have it's like 90-minute, session. So if you go over a little bit, that's fine. But we might just have some time after for questions for the girls or one question. Then.
Okay, good. So yeah, so I will just at the end tell you a little bit about how you can live in each phase of the cycle. I've already covered a few things, but yeah, so I will start with menstruation, which is our inner winter. And all of our hormones are at the lowest during menstruation. And that's also why our energy is the lowest during that time. And also because we are releasing our whole endometrium, which is a lot of blood and also a lot of stem cells. And our stem cells contain a lot of our life force energy. So if we are getting rid of all of that, it's just, yeah, we need a lot of energy for that, and a lot of energy gets lost. So we really have to be careful that we honor that and that we don't stress ourselves during that time. And we are also very introverted and sensitive and vulnerable during that time. So it's very good to really retreat a bit during that time and don't spend a lot of time with people that you don't really know well. And what's very good about menstruation is that we are very present during menstruation and are also actually very connected to source and intuition. So we can really use that to meditate and to yeah, get back to that intuition. And we sometimes also get impulses of how our future can look like, because it's really that new start. And at the same time, a time of letting go. So the menstruation is actually always that space in between, which is mostly very magical when we are in spaces in between. So the old cycle is ending and the new one is beginning. And so the menstruation is a very good time to really relax, and also don't exercise, just do gentle stretchings in our hips maybe. You can meditate very well, and it's also a very good time to let go of things that don't serve us. And then when we come into a follicular phase after menstruation, which is our inner spring, our estrogen is rising, and with that also our energy is rising. And yeah, we can really focus on growth in that phase. So physically and mentally, so we can build up new muscles and strengthen our bones, and we can also try new things, be adventurous, be more extrovert and social, and go out, meet new people. And we tend to think more in the future, so that can also bring up fears during that phase, like financial fears, for example. But it's also very beneficial to use it to, for example, make plans about the future. Um, and also, our brain is more effective when estrogen is high and our verbal skills are higher. So, yeah, it's really a good time to challenge yourself, to go out, try new things, and also get out of your comfort zone and meet new people. And yeah, really to use that physically as well, that you move your body, that you do, for example, strength training or cardio or wherever you like to strengthen your body during that phase. And then during ovulation, it's actually pretty similar to follicular phase, but just not in a bit more, everything is a bit at its maximum. So it's our inner summer, and estrogen and testosterone are at their maximum point. So they are peaking. It's also our fertile window. And during that phase, we are really physically the strongest because of the estrogen and the testosterone. And also mentally, we are very confident, we are extrovert, and we also like to be at the center of attention during that time. Our energy is also at the maximum. And this ovulation high, although ovulation is only happening between 12 and 36 hours, the ovulation high can last from 3 to 4 days in total. So yeah, ovulation phase in these 3 to 4 days, it's a very good time to also, again, go out of your comfort zone and physically be active, and also challenge yourself on a social part, or if you want to do some things that you are where you are in the center of attention. So if you have presentations or you want to promote your program, this is the perfect time because you're really magnetic during that time and shining in your light. And yeah. And then the last
So,
phase is
do you
the
promote your
sorry.
program in your ovulation?
No,
No.
because I think
You weren't in your
Uh,
ovulation at that time, or
Sorry?
you were not in your
I
ovulation at
think I promoted it in September, yeah, at the beginning of September, and there actually because I had the exams in August, and I'm very sensitive to stress, actually. My menstrual cycle is very sensitive to stress, and I think, yeah, there my menstrual cycle was really messed up again. Yeah.
Mm.
I'm only into balance now. I think this month, yeah, I really had a perfect cycle again of 28 days with ovulation and no pain. But before, my menstrual cycle was a bit a mess again. Yes.
Oh, we teach what we struggle with, so mm.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's a big, and yeah, it's just, like I said, a sacred mirror. So it really showed me that I went over my borders again, and yeah, it's always beautiful to listen inside when the menstrual cycle is out of balance again. Yeah, so the luteal phase, the last one, is our inner autumn. And during that phase, the estrogen is dropping and the progesterone is rising and is the dominant hormone. And like I said, our body thinks that we are pregnant during that time. So you can have that image inside of your head that you can live in that phase as if you were pregnant because your body thinks that. So we are more introverted and have a bigger need for safety and support. And also, our stress levels are naturally higher during that phase. So we don't want to add any stressors on the outside to us because our stress is already high. And but yeah, and we can more be in the female energy in that phase as compared to the follicular phase, we can more be in the male energy and the doing energy. And the luteal phase is a really beautiful time to relax a little and to be more in the feminine energy, into our intuition and creativity, and yeah, to really spend more time on ourselves and not be very social anymore, or just with people that you feel very comfortable. Um, and it's also rather a time to reflect. So we tend to think more in the past, can also be sometimes a bit stuck in past memories and overthink a lot, but we can really use it in a good way to reflect things and yeah, just to relax and prepare ourselves for our next inner winter again. Yeah, so this is it from my side, and my message of the whole workshop is actually to to go with the flow of your cycle because it is your superpower as a woman, and it's such a gift to that we have this menstrual cycle, and we when we really honor that again and live with it, there are so many gifts awaiting for you. Yeah, so thank you so much for listening, and if you have any questions, I'm glad to answer them.
My darling, it was so amazing to see you absolutely shine. Oh my God, I love it so much. Honestly, so well done. Maybe you can just